From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!
We effectively shut down Wall Street this morning. We did it with our stories, with our bodies, with our hearts.
I'm Russell Simmons, and I'm here because I believe in the work that these people are doing, and this whole education process is really amazing. In such a short amount of time, so many people are talking about the inequality.
I don't think that a year ago anybody would have predicted that on a cold, rainy day in November of 2011, you would have thousands and thousands of young people out on the streets in New York City and in cities across the country. Something has changed.
The Occupy Wall Street movement enters its third month with protests in cities across the country. We'll hear voices from the streets. Then a website called Global Revolution TV has become the main video hub for the Occupy Wall Street movement. We'll speak with Vlad Teichberg, one of the co-founders of the live stream project. Then to Oakland. A protester, after being arrested while meditating, was transferred into immigrant detention.
What they don't know is that if there's some law that attacks human rights and human dignity, there's going to be citizens of the world breaking that law again and again and again until that law is gone.
Pancho will join us from Berkeley. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The Occupy Wall Street movement marked its two-month anniversary Thursday with a series of actions in New York and nationwide. Here in the city, protesters began the day with an action at the New York Stock Exchange, causing major disruptions leading to a number of arrests.
I'm out here today because I'm vastly underemployed and overeducated, and I believe that the 1% needs to do their fair share.
You know, they've got so many cops here, so many people in riot gear. This is a peaceful, nonviolent act from people as young as babies to grannies that are just participating in this, and it's excessive. And Mayor Bloomberg should be ashamed of himself as a mayor and also as a member of the 1%.
Later in the day, hundreds of students gathered in New York's Union Square. The student action joined up with a massive rally in Foley Square that led to a march over the Brooklyn Bridge with an estimated crowd of over 32,000 people. In Los Angeles, at least 73 people were arrested in a series of actions, beginning with a march through the downtown financial district where demonstrators held hands and formed a circle around a busy intersection blocking traffic.
I'm here because it's solidarity with all the movements worldwide, from Egypt, Spain, Syria, Wall Street. We're all here to change the world, to make it equal for everybody on this planet.
I'm here to support the movement and the people that are marching on Wall Street down in New York today.
Around 50 people were later arrested outside a Bank of America tower where demonstrators held a rally and pitched tents. It was the third consecutive day to see mass arrests at a Bank of America site following actions in San Francisco and Charlotte, North Carolina. Dozens of protesters were arrested in other actions across the country. In Chicago, 46 people were arrested after blocking traffic on a major downtown bridge in a protest against unemployment and cuts to federal programs. Those who were not arrested marched on to Chicago's financial district, where they surrounded the Chicago Board of Trade. Meanwhile, in Portland, Oregon, at least 48 people arrested after a march and demonstration that saw hundreds occupy a downtown bridge. In Las Vegas, 21 people were arrested after blocking a street outside a federal courthouse. Protests were held in a number of other cities, including Atlanta, Miami, Denver, Houston, Dallas, Seattle, St. Louis, Boston, Milwaukee, Nashville, Columbia, South Carolina, and Washington, D.C. In New York, there were over 250 arrests. We'll have more on the Occupy protests after headlines. The U.S. Census says the number of children in the United States living in poverty rose by 1 million last year. Nearly 1 in 3 children, or 32.3%, now live in households considered poor. The Obama administration's launched a review of all deportation cases currently before the immigration courts, with the stated goal of focusing on individuals deemed to pose safety risk while sparing those with no criminal record. The department has also started a parallel nationwide training program for enforcement agents and prosecutors. The U.S. has deported more immigrants in fiscal year 2011 than any other year on record. On Capitol Hill, Energy Secretary Stephen Chu appeared before a congressional panel on Thursday to face questioning on the Obama administration's bailout of the failed solar energy firm Solyndra. The White House has faced scrutiny following the disclosure it rushed to approve a $535 million loan guarantee to the firm, despite warnings it had not been properly vetted. Solyndra went bankrupt despite the aid, laying off about 1,000 workers. Opponents have accused Obama of rewarding a wealthy donor with ties to Solyndra for his financial backing. In his testimony, Chu said political considerations played no role in the Solyndra loan.
The loan guarantee to Solyndra was subject to proper, rigorous scrutiny and healthy debate during every phase of the process. As the Secretary of Energy, the final decisions on Solyndra were mine, and I made them with the best interest of the taxpayer in mind. And I want to be clear. Over the course of Solyndra's loan guarantee, I did not make any decision based on political considerations. My decision to guarantee a loan to Solyndra was based on the analysis of experienced professionals and on the strength of the information they had available to them at the time.
New details have been revealed on the political maneuverings behind President Obama's decision to reject tougher regulations on smog pollution earlier this year. The New York Times reports industry lobbying played a critical role in Obama's rejection of standards proposed by Environmental Protection Agency head Lisa Jackson. Mindful of White House concerns about opposition from corporate interests and state lawmakers, Jackson submitted a proposal she viewed as a major compromise with a weaker limit on pollution and considerable leeway for compliance. At 65 parts per billion, the EPA estimated it would prevent as many as 7,200 deaths, 11,000 emergency room visits, and 38,000 acute cases of asthma each year. But industry groups unleashed intense lobbying on lawmakers and White House officials. R. Bruce Johnston, the chief lobbyist for the Chamber of Commerce, appeared to suggest his strategy was based on convincing the White House winning elections was more important than protecting public health. Describing a meeting with Jackson, Johnston said, quote, "She listened to us, but then talked about how important it was to do this, the lung thing, the asthma thing, the kids' health thing. She felt it was important to go ahead. The funny thing was nobody wanted to come right out and say, are you guys thinking this through? Your boss is up for re-election next year. You're going to have a major negative impact on the economy." The New York Times also reports Obama's chief of staff, William Daley, appeared to be heavily swayed after a lobbyist provided him with a map showing the smog rules would negatively impact industrial interests in a number of states up for grabs in the 2012 election. Daley also appeared to ignore figures provided by environmentalists showing little difference in job growth and the economy in areas that have adopted stricter ozone standards compared with those that have not. At least 6 people have died in a major storm that tore through a number of southeastern states. The victims were killed in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, with affected areas also seeing injuries, power outages, and damage to buildings. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's heading to Burma next month as part of a thawing of ties with the ruling military junta there. Clinton's visit would mark the first by a U.S. Secretary of State in half a century. Speaking at a summit in Bali, President Obama said he sees flickers of progress in Burma.
After years of darkness, we've seen flickers of progress in these last several weeks. We want to seize what could be a historic opportunity for progress and make it clear that if Burma continues to travel down the road of democratic reform, it can forge a new relationship with the United States of America. Last night, I spoke to Aung San Suu Kyi directly and confirmed that she supports American engagement to move this process forward.
As news broke of Clinton's visit, Burma's pro-democracy leader, Aung San Suu Kyi, announced she will run for parliament in Burma's next elections. Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy will register for the vote after boycotting last year's elections. Tens of thousands of people are rallying in Egypt today as part of the ongoing protests calling for a quicker transition from military to civilian government. Massive crowds have gathered in Cairo's Tahrir Square, as well as in the town of Alexandria. Organizers have dubbed the protests the Friday of One Demand, calling on Egypt's military rulers to hand over power without delay. The Obama administration is reportedly considering a request from Kenya for military assistance in Kenya's month-old military operation inside Somalia. A force of 2,000 Kenyan troops crossed into Somalia last month in a bid to target the militant group al-Shabaab. According to the Los Angeles Times, Kenya has made an urgent appeal to the White House for intelligence and logistical support. Thousands of people rallied in Greece's capital of Athens Thursday to oppose austerity measures and mark the 38th anniversary of the student uprising against the Greek dictatorship. The protest was the first since a new Greek cabinet took office earlier this week as part of a shakeup to address the country's economic crisis.
The message in 1973 at the Polytechnic was, rise up. The message today is disobey, overturn the policies of the government, and overturn the policies of capitalists, so we can have a different model for growth and for a society that serves the working people.
Brazil has opened an investigation of the oil giant Chevron after a major oil spill off the coast of Rio de Janeiro. A well at a Chevron drilling site has released unknown amounts of oil into the sea. A top Brazilian police official called the spill an environmental catastrophe.
Nós temos grande desastre ambiental.
This is a great environmental disaster. No doubt this is an environmental catastrophe. This area is a migratory route where many marine species go by. The dimensions of the spill are much bigger than the company would like to admit.
The California Supreme Court has ruled opponents of same-sex marriage can challenge a ruling overturning the state's gay marriage ban. The ban, known as Proposition 8, was lifted in August. The case is expected to ultimately come before the U.S. Supreme Court. The Justice Department has launched a probe of Miami police over a spate of fatal shootings of young men. Miami police have killed at least 8 men in the last 16 months, all but one of them African-American. The Miami investigation brings to 18 the number of police departments nationwide currently under Justice Department review. And a veteran journalist is accusing the National Press Club of censorship for suspending him in response to his questioning of a member of the Saudi royal family at a news conference earlier this week. The journalist, Sam Husseini of the Institute for Public Accuracy, questioned Prince Turki Al-Faisal Al Saud.
There's been a lot of talk about legitimacy of the Syrian regime. I want to know what legitimacy your regime has. You come before us representative of one of the most autocratic, misogynistic regimes on the face of the earth. Human Rights Watch and other reports of torture, detention of activists. You squelched the democratic uprising in Bahrain. You tried to overturn the democratic uprising in Egypt, and indeed you continue to oppress your own people. What legitimacy does your regime have? Well, billions of dollars and weapons. Sam, let him answer.
Would you like to come and speak here?
Sorry?
Would you like to come and speak here? Give a speech.
I'm trying to answer that question.
I will try my best, sir. Well, sir, I don't know if you've been to the kingdom or not. Have you been to the Have you been to the kingdom?
What legitimacy does your regime have?
Obviously,
in your own people. Yes.
Obviously, you haven't.
Put your question and let him answer. Yes. He asked me a question. He asked me and I responded.
No, you did not respond. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I advise anybody who has these questions to come to the kingdom and see for themselves. I don't need to justify my country's legitimacy.
Days after that exchange, Sam Husseini received a letter from the National Press Club informing him he would be suspended for 2 weeks. In response, Husseini said, quote, "I engaged in tough journalism with a powerful government official from an autocratic regime that's allied with the U.S. government." He wrote, "This apparently warrants suspension from the National Press Club." And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez. Welcome to all of our